Hello everyone, my name is Daryl. I work as a software developer, and in this video you'll see how I naturally work through a LeetCode challenge. This is a problem that I'm seeing for the first time, and I'll explain myself as I work through it. My solution won't likely be the best or most efficient, it'll just be the one that I come up with first. So let's go over this question. This is implement strStr. So return the index of the first occurrence of needle or haystack, or -1 if needle is not part of haystack. Clarification. What should we return when needle is an empty string? This is a great question to ask during an interview. For the purpose of this problem, we will return 0 when needle is an empty string. This is consistent to C's strStr and Java's index of. So here we got some examples. So just to kind of look here, the input is haystack and then needle, two strings, and it's returning an int. So if haystack is hello and needle is LL, then the output is 2. So basically, you're just searching for the first index of needle in haystack. Okay, I get what it's saying. And so this one returns -1 because BBA is not in there. And this one returns 0 because a blank is actually in there. So the haystack length is going to be 0 or above, or, okay, it could be very large as well. Needle could be very large, I should say. Haystack and needle consist of only lowercase English characters. Okay, so let's copy this over to here and we'll get started here. So I'm assuming for this problem, they don't want you to kind of cheat, because of course you could do something like Kotlin has. You could just say string.contains to tell if it's in there or not. I believe this question is asking you to do a manual implementation of this. So I'm not going to cheat, as in I'm not going to just use like a contains functions or some Kotlin functions just to quickly get the index of this. We're going to implement this manually. So one question about this question that I'll need to just see if any of the examples show how they want this handled. So in this example, they give a blank where the haystack is a blank, but they don't show an example where the needle is a blank, but the haystack is something. Would needle still return 0 because it's a blank string and you could consider 0 to be, I guess actually in this case, 0 would be something. So a blank wouldn't be in there. So then the case where needle is blank might just be kind of a special case where you check if haystack is blank. Anyways, so I think we want to start out by looping through the string. So we're going to loop through the haystack with the index. I believe we'll need that. So let's just say if char is equal to needle 0. For now, I'm just going to make this the blank thing an extra case. Just say if needle.length is equal to 0, which it'll probably want to convert to is empty, and haystack, or let's just do if the needle's empty, if haystack dot is empty, return 0, else return -1. And you can probably, I was going to say, you could probably lift that out. Okay. So if the character that we're at is equal to the start of the needle, let's first check if there would even possibly be enough space left in the haystack to finish the needle string. So if haystack length greater than or equal to index plus 1 plus needle dot length. So this should get us, so obviously we're offsetting the index because we want to look at the actual length. So if we're at the first character, we want to consider this to be 1 plus the length of the needle. And we want to see if the haystack is at least that long. If it is, then it's possible that we do have our needle in our haystack. So then we'll want to check if haystack dot substring. Look at those. Start index is going to be index. End index is going to be index plus needle dot length. And it's probably not happy that I'm doing, oh, if that is equal to needle, then we have found it. Turn index. Now let's think about what happens in the else cases. So if the character matches and there's enough length in haystack, but the substring doesn't match, then we want to let it continue. It would just then go on to the next character. But I'm not going to type that right now because I want to see how many else of these that happens as well. So if the haystack, if we get to here where the first character matches the first character of needle, but there's not enough length, actually in this case, we can just return -1 because if that's kind of an efficiency thing. If we get to that point and we know, and we're probably going to be able to lift these returns out of here, by the way, but we'll see how that goes. But we want to return -1 because obviously there'd be no point in continuing. So then let's go ahead and put that in here. So else continue. Let's finish before we lift it out. Then if we just get here and if the character doesn't match, then we also just want to continue. So I'm trying to think, is it better to remove this continue and put the continue down there or have another continue? I think right now for legibility of code, I actually like having these here. And then you can also do this. Let me take a look at this. You can do that, or you can do this one, which I think is even better. Yes, that's way better. Okay. And obviously, if we get all the way out of here, then we just want to return -1. So let's go ahead and throw this in here and see what we get. Let's just copy this whole thing. Let's run the sample here. Okay, so the first was accepted. Let's go ahead and do a submit and see if there's any errors. Okay, we got a wrong answer. All right, so we're given an A, and the needle is blank. My output was -1, and the expected was 0. So this is exactly what I was talking about earlier when the problem didn't properly define what they wanted. I would have expected in this case they would have wanted -1, but they do want it to be 0. Okay. So I think all we need to change is just return 0 if the needle is empty. So let's run that test again. That one passed. Let's do a submit. Okay, so this one's wrong. So give it an A and an A, my output's -1 when it should be 0. I think I spotted a little bug. I actually think we don't want that +1 because I was thinking about how this would work in this case. It would have been 0, the current index, plus 1 would be 1, and then we'd be adding the needle dot length, which would make it 2, which is not correct. Really quickly, let's go ahead and throw this back over here, run that test. So that one passes. Let's submit. All right, there we go. We got it accepted. So this one is pretty good on runtime. Poorer than average on memory, though. All right. Let's go ahead and go over the code real quick. So first, we're just doing a check here to see if the needle's empty. If the needle is empty, according to this problem, they just want you to return 0 and don't worry about anything else. So that's just kind of a guard case that we do right there. Then we are looping through the haystack with the index. So we have the index and the actual character. And we're going to return the result of this, or -1 if it gets out of here. Here we're going to check if the first character of the needle matches the character that we're currently on. So if that happens, then we're going to check, is it possible, is there enough length in the haystack after the current, or including the current index, so that the needle could possibly be in the haystack? And if it is, then we're just going to go ahead and check from that point that we're at to the length of the needle. Does it match? Did we find our needle in the haystack? If so, then we just return the index. If that value is not the needle, then we just continue on to the next one. Because maybe, I'm sure there's some test cases in there where the needle is in the haystack, but it's just later on in the haystack. So then, if when we checked to see if the haystack could possibly be, or the needle could possibly be in the haystack based on the length, and we find out that it couldn't be, then we just return -1 because there's no reason to continue checking if there's not enough length. And in fact, one thing we could do that would be slightly more efficient is before we even go into these ifs, we could just straight up check, hey, is the haystack even long enough from this point? And then we could exit. We could add that as well. It'd be slightly more efficient. But I'm going to stick it with it the way it is right now. And then we check here if the current character that we're at does not start the needle, then we're just going to continue on to the next one. And then if all of that fails, it goes to -1 here. And that's basically it. Thanks for watching. I hope that helped you guys. Catch you next time.